ways. It's kind of just the foundation that I'm walking for. The mantra is leadership through action, and I'll tell you, I'll get to that in a second. But first of all, my name is Rory Fanning. I'm from Chicago. A little bit of bio behind me. In 2000, I graduated from the University of Notre Dame. After 9/11 happened, in spite of having pacifist leanings, I enlisted in the Special Forces, or the Rangers, which is, if you ever saw the movie Black Hawk Down, I don't know if you guys ever saw that, that's what the Rangers are. And they basically specialize in running around the caves in the middle of nowhere looking for bad guys and seizing airports. So they'll throw us into like behind lines when they're just trying to like engage a country in battle and seize an airport, because an airport is usually the most important thing in the entire nation when you're getting going. So we do the heavy lifting. We have a secret security clearance and whatnot. So it's that's what I did. I enlisted in the Rangers. Does anybody know who Pat Tillman is? You guys ever heard of Pat Tillman? Yeah. Raise your hand just so I know. Have a good friend. Okay, good. You guys know Pat Tillman. Okay, good. Pat Tillman, he played for the Arizona Cardinals, and he gave up a $3.6 million NFL career after 9/11. And when I met Pat, I was actually coming out of a field training exercise where we had gone without food and water for about a month. And like every other Ranger, I was heading over for an adult beverage over at the local bar. And en route, I passed a coffee shop. And in the coffee shop, Kevin and Pat Tillman were in there reading a book. So I just said, what the heck is going on here? These guys should not be drinking coffee on a Friday night. They should be out with everybody else. So I went in and introduced myself, and we started talking. And I found Pat to be one of the most well-read, engaged, thoughtful human beings I've ever met. I mean, he flew like water, went from one topic to the next effortlessly. And the thing that really struck me about him was his ability to listen. When I was talking, he was focused on me. I was the only person in the room when we were chatting. And I think that's kind of an underemphasized quality amongst leaders nowadays, is the ability to listen. And to me, someone who's a good listener, it says a lot in the sense that you have to be confident in yourself to listen. You have to be settled. You have to be calm. You have to have made a lifetime of character-based decisions, I think, to be a good listener. Never trying to interrupt me for his own point, and just focused, because he was inquisitive too. He actually was interested in what I had to say, which is also a fairly rare quality in people, being inquisitive. So, as you guys know, about 6 months later, on April 22nd, 2004, Pat was killed in Afghanistan by friendly fire. A lot was made of that death. There was a cover-up by the military. It was very difficult for the family and everybody. And the way ultimately I think the family sees it and everybody else sees it, it was a very terrible accident. But an unconscionable mistake by the military to cover it up, because Pat was a very truth-based person. He believed in truth at all costs, and I think he would have wanted the military to treat his family with the same kind of respect that he lived his life, and that's pursuing truth. So anyway, 4 years later, I'm sitting on my couch in Chicago, just generally frustrated with the headlines on TV, the selfishness and the corruption on Wall Street and in Congress. It was, and like a lot of Americans, I was frustrated, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I think everybody's kind of felt that in one way or another in this room. And so rather than throw my hands up in frustration, I was like, well, what am I halfway good at? I don't have $1 million. I don't hold a political office, but I can walk. I did 4 years of walking in the Rangers, and I'm halfway decent at walking. So I flew to Virginia Beach, and I've been walking ever since. I spent the last 7.5 months walking across the country, not taking any rides forward, talking to high schools, colleges, prisons, fending off pit bulls, hanging out with bears, cooking my food over a campfire, and just having an amazing experience. I, like a lot of you, probably had a degree of cynicism that kind of ran down my spine when it came to the public. It was kind of my circle and family, and then it was everybody else. But my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. The people I've met in this country have embraced me. They've been kind. They've been generous. I would tell you about the negative people that I've met, but everybody's been generally positive. And the reason I think they've been generally positive is because I've come into their community without being a competitor. I wasn't trying to take anything from them. I was just trying to share a message and not preach, and just remind people of Pat's amazing sacrifice. And I think when when you walk into an environment not as a competitor, because I think by definition, competition demands that you look for the weakness in people or the worst qualities in them and exploit it. And I think, although I love competition, I've played sports my entire life, I think it might be taken over to the next level in a lot of ways in our culture. And so, anyway, sleeping in people's homes after 25-minute conversations. In Arkansas, I think I slept outside twice. Things you just don't think happen nowadays. It happened to me on a regular basis on this walk. And it's completely changed my life. I got tons of stories, but what I'd really like to do is, if you guys have any questions or kind of talk about your understanding of leadership and the qualities that you think are important in a good leader, and go from there. But a little bit more, I'm raising the $3.6 million that Pat gave up for his foundation. My hope is to get in front of 1.8 million people and have them consider donating $2 to the Pat Tillman Foundation. The difference between a large coffee and a small coffee at Starbucks kind of thing. And I think it would be an amazing national statement to give that money back to his foundation. So, and this foundation is essentially looking for kids throughout the nation, just like you guys, to exemplify the same kind of leadership qualities Pat has, with a particular focus on kids of veterans. And then they give them full ride scholarships to various countries. Right now they have $500,000 that they're going to be giving out. And my hope is, because it's a new foundation, is to raise that up. If I can give them $3.6 million, then that pays for a lot of kids' education. So, thanks very much for listening, guys. You guys are just like Pat, excellent listeners. So, you guys have any questions, or want to know how many pairs of shoes I've gone through, or?
How many?
How many shoes?
I was walking on $10 Walmart specials. For the first, I would say, 1,500 miles of the walk. And not because I couldn't afford better shoes, it's because I wanted to maybe subtly prove a point. I think a lot of people procrastinate for the need of the best possible weather. And I wanted to say, you know what, actually just put 500 miles on a $10 pair of Walmart shoes. And actually they held up pretty darn good. I think we focus a lot on stuff. And, I walked along the Trail of Tears the whole way. And I just focused on the fact that these guys walked with moccasins for 1,500 miles on a forced march.